one of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Culiet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office, to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252-.
All kinds of things happening in the news, and we'll get to those, including the fact that I think that yesterday was a day off for the trial. But I've also got Rick Rosner with me. Of course, we're getting started a little bit late and all in that space, but I was actually hanging out, as Nick knows, with a group of diplomats on yesterday. So that's why I was not able to make the interview show. But I understand that, Rick, you did a great job along with Jatovi of talking to the doctor, but there were diplomats from various countries, including the Congo, Australia, and a number of other places that were visiting the Haiti Heritage Center. And I was learning a lot about them because Pierce actually did this interesting thing where he had folks talk about their favorite foods. So, of course, there were some stereotypical ones. The woman from Paris, I believe it was a woman, and all along those lines, was talking about the love of beignets. And I think she also mentioned one dish that I am not that big of a fan of, just because it sounds like it might be all that great to eat, and I can't say that I've ever eaten it, but she did talk about escargot, which we know is snail.
So,
and all those lines. But hold on a second. She also, the gentleman from Australia, and that was definitely a gentleman that was from that particular country, talked about kangaroo and how he loved having kangaroo. And there was a gentleman from the African country that talked about something, I think it was called brie, but it basically was their version of barbecue and all along those lines. You know, one of the stereotypes that exists is that when people think about food and they have to make a comparison, they're going to make a comparison to Western staples. So when Pierce, who was the hip hop pioneer here in this area that was doing part of the discussion along with myself and was leading this particular icebreaker, asked the gentleman from Australia, what does kangaroo taste like? You know, your usual answers are either going to be chicken or venison. And in his case, it was venison. So he said it tastes very much like venison, and and all along those lines, which for those that are international and are wondering what venison is, that would be deer and everything in that space. But that's what he compared it to, was the whole notion of it tasting like venison, and he said it's a very delectable dish and everything. Of course, there were people that were some of the Eastern European countries that were more into vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. So some of them were talking about like some of the wraps that might be done in like a grape plant or something along those lines. So there was definitely a lot going on in that particular part of the meeting, because they were there from 10 until 12:15, 12:30, something like that. And that particular part was before they went to eat at the Pit, which is one of our barbecue joints here in Durham, North Carolina, and everything. But they definitely had a good time, got a chance to hear some of the history of Hayti and all along those lines. But I love that food analogy that he did and all in that space. But you're going to say something about escargot before I get to some
snails don't taste like anything. They're just an excuse to eat a lot of butter and garlic. When they bring you out a little dish, and each snail comes in a little cup that's filled with butter and garlic, and so that's the only taste you get. And they're chewy, so it takes a while. And then you dip your bread in the butter and garlic. It's just an excuse to butter everything.
Well, speaking of things being buttered up, and I was going to get to some of the news items, but I just wanted to share that. And like I said, I did appreciate you and Jacoby covering, since I didn't know that I had double booked myself, but I was glad that I was able to book the good doctors. And I understand from Nick that y'all did a great job and all along those lines. But we've got some news items going on, because, that's one of the things we do here on World Edition and everything. And apparently the Supreme Court is hearing Trump's immunity claim in a election interference case. So that has come out in the news, and Arizona has indicted a Trump fake electors from the 2020 election. And of course, university protests are spreading across the United States, and there were arrests at UT Austin and at USC and all along those lines. And apparently Wall Street and tech billionaires. So maybe we can get Nick to rush to this as well, since we know he's a billionaire, and I'm only being sarcastic because I know he's not making that kind of money, and everything are racing to ban TikTok. So we know TikTok has been banned, and apparently there are folks in that space that are racing to get to it and to kind of like see if they can buy TikTok, since TikTok has been banned in the United States. That was one of those Senate moves. And apparently the New York Appeals Court has overturned Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction and all along those lines. So there's all kinds of things taking place.
He's not walking out, because he's serving a 16-year sentence for all the raping he did in California.
So he's not going to get a chance to walk out, but he's just going to get a chance to say have some lesser charges and all in that space, or at least one of the charges overturned. But he did a lot of other things, even to your point, and everything in that space. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be just like getting away and all in that space. By the way, a Hamas official, and I know Sasha will love this and everything, says that his group would be willing to lay down its weapons if a two-state solution is implemented. So that is what a top Hamas political official told the Associated Press. So they are saying that they're willing to agree to a truce if the two-state solution is actually implemented, and all in that space. So I know that you've got some connections to the Jewish community and all along those lines, but what is your thoughts about this?
One of them being a Jew. Yeah. I want Netanyahu out of there. I think that, I'm like most Americans who are pretty interested. I don't know that much about everything that goes on over there, but I just assume that Netanyahu would go on just obliterating Gaza until all of Hamas is dead, even if that means killing, 50,000 other Gazans who aren't Hamas. I don't know that Israel, is going to take that seriously, but it would be great, if they did reach a ceasefire. And I have no problem with a two-state thing, as long as the government of Gaza isn't as corrupt as it historically has been. Though at this point, even a corrupt frickin' government would be better than the slaughter go. I mean, actually it wouldn't, because we just have this whole cycle again. But I never considered the possibility, after what's been going on for the past 6 months, that there could be any kind of lasting solution where Hamas isn't completely obliterated. But half of Hamas has been killed. And yeah, you can, like, there have been other wars, where you reach the peace. Most other wars, you don't kill all the enemy's forces. So yeah, I hope this could happen, but Hamas isn't super trustworthy or at all trustworthy in what they say. So, we got to wait and see if, Israel's government, which has Netanyahu, who's a jerk, and a cabinet that is half insane jerks. So on both sides, you've got, people who aren't great at reaching peace. So we'll see.
Okay, just really quickly, I'm going to switch computers and all along those lines. But as I'm going to make that switch and all along those lines, one of the things I was curious about, and this is a California news story, but it impacts what goes on even internationally. But there was an article that I read that said that California is not always a high tax state. The lower one's income, the lower the percentages they pay in taxes. And that was a new study that came out yesterday. And apparently there are some people that are saying that California's latest job killing policy is more bad news for those folks like you that are in the Golden State, because apparently California is already home to some of the highest taxes and cost of living in the country. And that's the result, they say, of failed government policies and everything. And apparently California
I can address this. So I think California is an insanely low tax state in terms of property tax. They have a thing where your property tax doesn't go up very much it starts off at 1%, which is normal for a lot of places, but is less than like New York, which has like 2%. I mean, crazy property tax, but then it doesn't go up. So my wife and I have owned our house for, I don't know what, 27 years. And now the value of the house has gone up fivefold, but our property taxes has not even doubled. So we're paying 0.4% a year in property tax, which is just nothing.
You know who has the highest or almost the highest property taxes in the country? The country that rips people off with high taxation. You wouldn't believe the highest real estate taxes in the country happens to be in Texas. Now, a lot of people don't know that because Texas has no state personal income tax. Mm-hmm. So here's what they do. They tout, oh, we don't have a state personal income tax. Come to Texas. And then they find out they pay the highest property taxes in the United States of America. So it's kind of like it's a bait and switch. In other words,
so one more thing is my wife's mom and my mom both passed away in the past 2 years. And yeah, we inherited some stuff free of taxes because that's what, but
that's the American way.
But there were annuities and stuff that ended up being taxable. And so we paid higher taxes to the state of California than we've ever paid before. But still, It was only 6.3%. It's not the 10 and
it's 13. Not the 13.3. No, it's the graduated rate. And so it happens, you don't really hit the 13.3 until you make over $1 million a year.
Which we didn't even come close.
Yeah, right. And so you don't pay those high rates. But again, this is the spin on California. Oh, the taxes are so high. And they're right if you're making more than $1 million a year. But if you're not making $1 million a year, it isn't. But it doesn't matter. The perception is California taxes you so heavily, and Texas is tax-free.
Hey,
Texas has the highest.
Two questions. One that was based on the news that I brought up at the beginning. The other I'm going to ask about that has to do with housing. I'd love to hear Jacoby's thought about what I'm going to bring up. But first off, I want to get to TikTok.
Jacoby wants to give all the money to Game Boy
and everything.
About people being
but I want to get to TikTok and the ban on TikTok because they did say that there is a group of billionaires and others that are thinking about trying to buy it, apparently, since it has been banned in the United States with that Senate bill and all along those lines. So I just wanted Jacoby and maybe even you, Nick, if you have any take on whether TikTok is not going to be owned by, I think it's Tencent, it's the company that owns it and everything, but they might be, because they're Chinese-based, and now they're going to be owned by some U.S. folks. Maybe Elon Musk is going to buy it. I don't know who's going to buy it, but or Mark Zuckerberg. But what is your take on this?
I think that bill has a lot of legal problems. I mean, the thing is, It's not like the law isn't uniformly applied to all corporations. They're singling out one company, TikTok, and saying you can't be in business anymore. Okay, that's not the American system. I mean, if that's the case, why don't we single out Tesla and say you shouldn't be in business anymore because you're owned by Elon Musk? I mean, this law, I think, that was signed by your President Biden has a lot of problems built in. It has a lot of China phobia built in. We're scared of China. And so therefore you need to turn around and give Pod TV $5 million. I mean, come on, that's what's going on. I mean, it's everywhere. We're scared of China. We need to give the chip company $60 billion. We're scared of China. We got to get rid of TikTok. We're scared of China. You now have to contribute $5 million or $50 billion to Pod TV. You see what I mean? In other words,
isn't the TikTok thing about privacy that China is data mining us? Isn't that the
yeah? But see, the thing is, if you think China's data mining, if that's what you really think, then you need to pass a law that's uniform to all companies, that all companies cannot data mine, and all companies cannot data mine and share with the Chinese government. You cannot single out one company, which is what this law did, and say you're out of business because the Senate in the United States government says so. This is the height of tyranny, and it exists in Congress. You can't just blame the president. Congress had to pass it. It exists in the power mongers of our government, which is the president. And what they're doing is they're singling out a company. They could single out any company.
It's based on bullshit.
It's a dangerous institution. Hence, we got to take the Haiti Center down. And it's got, come on, Mark. They can't do that stuff. This is the United States of America.
But the whole deal, I think anything based on privacy is bullshit because every company mines us for everything.
Yeah. And then they need to pass a law for every company. You cannot. Now, I'm going to follow this because this definitely will be challenged in court. It's definitely going to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, which I'm licensed before, so I can listen to the garbage, and I can put an amicus brief in.
But Nick, don't people do this on a regular basis? I can tell you that I have been approached. You talk about I've been approached by even private individuals. I think that it is unethical. So I don't do it and everything, but I know that I've been approached by folks that want entire lists, like mailing lists, and all along.
I know they do that.
And definitely, that is a form of data mining. Those people that are less than scrupulous, and I'm sure that even Jacoby's got some good moral values as well, and I'm sure that he's even been approached about giving a list of the Durham and other kind of groups that he's part of as well and everything. So what is your take? Because I think this data mining is something that even private individuals got to do on a regular basis.
Let's hear Jacoby about it, because Jacoby knows everything, so I'm sure he studied this issue. And the thing is, he certainly has an opinion on, can we single out?
I mean, think about it this way. You know why Google is free? Why your Google search engine is free? What do you think they're doing? They're selling your data. That's how you make. And why is Facebook free? Facebook is free because it's all your data. All these free things that we do is because they sell your data. So, there are privacy issues with TikTok dealing with China and the data mining situation there. However, Nick, you're spot on, because what this is going to do is this is going to create a war, a technological war, because now what can China do? There are going to be some companies, the U.S. companies that, because if TikTok doesn't sell, because China is actually fighting that selling process, as well as their backdoor or their capabilities of actually getting the information. If they don't sell, then we ban TikTok. Then what ends up happening, because right now the biggest user base of TikTok is in the US, but what that's going to do is that's going to create a problem where China's now going to ban whatever company won't sell in China. So now Google's already limited, but now what's going to happen to Google? Now what's going to happen to Microsoft? Now what's going to happen to these other companies that make a lot of money selling in China, because that's one of the biggest bases. If China hits the auto industry, the auto industry is really going to fail, because the biggest buyers around Ford and all these other cars, that's the Chinese market. It's not the US market. It's the Chinese market where those giant dollars are coming from. The cell phone market, same thing. So I'm not. I mean, while I understand the ban and what they're take for example, we're talking about TikTok and how TikTok has a Chinese base. Do you realize that many of the video games that people play are owned by different Chinese markets? So
Yeah.
Like
the
biggest
not just that, Jacoby, but if you look on the back of your shirts, the back of your clothes, aren't a lot of those manufactured in Chinese areas and in other Asian markets as well? Because I'm thinking that a lot of times if you look at the shirt tags, you will see made in Hong Kong or made in China or made in a number of other places as well. So does that mean that China's going to turn around and start banning some of the clothes that we get and that we have on our backs on a regular basis? Because I know that if I look on the tags, I will see quite a few things that are made in the Asian theater.
So I put an article up on Nissan, the car company, which apparently is one of the worst in terms of privacy. It said there's some fine print. Nissan says they can collect information about your sexual activity, health diagnosis data, genetic information, psychological trends, predispositions, behavior, attitudes. Now, I don't know how they get all that from your car, but your car is spying on you. Your phone, we know it's a fun game to talk about stuff in front of your phone and then see what articles your phone sends you. Google has a thing called incognito mode. I use that after midnight when I'm looking at naked ladies after the rest of the family is asleep. But if you look at the fine print on incognito mode, Google still keeps all those searches, and if they get subpoenaed, they can just turn that stuff right over. Like,
Rick, just really quick. If you go even further than that, you get.
Oh, he knows how to go in. He knows how to go in depth to those porno things.
No, think about the technology, because what people think about is, I'm just searching on my browser. Okay, well, let me go incognito mode or let me go privacy mode, and then it may hide some stuff. You're not getting your internet from Google. You're getting it from an ISP. That internet service provider could be whatever technological company who laid the lines. Do you know they collect data as well? So your data is for sale. That is the biggest market out. That's the biggest thing out there. And
this law is the biggest BS I've ever seen by the US government.
The reason it's the biggest BS is because it's politics.
Exactly.
Chinophobia is politics. Instead of thinking
it's China-phobia. And my friends in China will probably be going berserk because we redistribute through Understanding China, because Understanding China kind of understands us. And the thing is, they go berserk, and rightfully so, because if you want to single out a company, that's what you're doing. You're saying, and I don't know where constitutionally the U.S. government can just single out a corporation, put them out of business, not creating a law that's uniformly applied to all companies. In other words,
Nick, I wanted to ask Rick a question based on. Nick, I wanted to ask a question based on something Rick just said. You're talking about the car and that Nissan and how the car can track you. I don't even drive. I get around by mass transit, get around by friends.
They do that in Europe.
I get around by walking and a number of other places. I can tell you for a fact that I have, looked on the tracking items, because if you go on Google, they'll tell you where you walked and where you've been to. And
they do. They know everything about
it. It is actually pretty accurate. It'll be like, you traveled umpteen miles to get between Hayti and home back and forth, and it'll tell me all of this stuff. So we are being regularly tracked on a regular basis, including in those of you that drive in your vehicle. So they're constantly tracking.
Everybody's being regularly tracked,
but also in terms of where you're going.
Yeah, that's the GPS tracking system and that data technology. That's a whole separate set. But what we should do, instead of, as you want to call it Chinophobia, you want to call it the fear, we've got to create a different path. Yes, there are technological issues. Well, there's issues with stealing technology. Yes, that happens. Huawei stole. Well, there was Huawei. People feared. There's also another phone company, Xiaomi, I think, is the other phone company that's out there, or a cell phone company. Those are actually larger. There's actually the biggest EV maker isn't Tesla. There's actually a Chinese
company that's bigger, right?
Is it Bahia or something? I cannot remember the actual.
So China has
transformed. Is actually moved towards a system where we're working together and not this. Go back to the competition and not the fear of, because we're going
to have to TikTok. But I got a question for you. There's a popular app that is used regularly. I use it. I think you use it. You told me. I know that when Shaquille has been here, he uses it because that's actually how people communicate with him sometimes and everything. But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't WhatsApp partially owned by the Chinese as well? And I haven't heard anybody going after them and everything, because WhatsApp is a very popular app, and I can't remember who owns it, but I thought it was Asian owned also.
WhatsApp? I don't know.
Which is not to say that, I mean, there are plenty of reasons to worry about China. And they do steal stuff like, if you can make a product for cheaper in China, my wife had a product. They'll make it cheaper for you. They will also rip you off without regard for patents, and they'll sell it to, wherever they can.
But the thing is, remember the U.S. This is the same U.S. government says non-compete clauses are illegal in the United States. So employees are allowed to rip you off here too. So what difference?
No, that's a completely separate thing.
Oh, I see. It's
separate
different when the Chinese rip you off than an American rip.
The employees aren't ripping you off.
As a business owner,
what it is incorrect. What it is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to equate.
That's your opinion.
You're trying to equate an extreme count of where you had the example the other day. Well, there's going to be an employee that goes up in a company.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
No, that doesn't happen.
What part of San Francisco do you
What
live
happens all the time, literally, are layoffs. And layoffs for those individuals that get laid off end up having to sign a non-compete if they want to keep their severance pay. Right. That shouldn't happen because
it should.
No, it shouldn't. Because
the non-competes are reasonable as
here's
to
the question then, Nick. Counsel here. Let's do this simply.
They've been reasonable for years.
No. Here, let's do this simply. Counsel,
you're not going to my backyard and open up a McDonald's next to my
but the thing is,
not my backyard.
You have the option to lay anybody off for any reason, regardless of what it is. You can also sign them to a non-compete, so therefore you can't even get a job.
No, you don't have to sign the non-compete. You can walk in without your severance.
So now you're saying
you can walk without the severance and without the face, so you're going to cut people off.
You're going to sign a severance. You're not going to give me my due, even though you're
no. It's quid pro quo, something for something.
If you're going to go, you quid pro quo. Hey, just really quickly, Nick, just really quickly, I wanted to clarify something. I just looked it up and everything, and it actually comes back to one of the other wars that we talk about, because apparently WhatsApp was originally created by John Combe, who is a Ukrainian-born American entrepreneur. So he was actually a Ukrainian computer programmer and everything, and then he sold it to Meta. So Meta actually owns WhatsApp. So it's owned
Okay, so why
did the Ukrainian-born billionaire that created it, and then he sold it toward Meta.
Mark, why didn't the U.S. government just shut down Meta? Okay, in other words, let's pass a law and say Meta needs to divest themselves of all shareholders and go out of business. Why can't we do that? They're a horrible company anyway, so we should just do that. Just get rid of them.
You're making that a correct argument, because yes, that's why TikTok should not be banned.
Well, does the American government have the power? Let me ask you this, counselors, since you're all right now in front of the Supreme Court of Nick. Okay, does the American government have the power to pass a law to shut down a corporation such as Meta? Yes or no?
No, because I was actually going to bring
no, Mark. Yes or no? Yes.
No, it can shut down total corporations, because that's the other issue that I was getting ready to get to. Hold on a second, because that's the other issue I was getting ready to get to, because it's somewhat tied in, even though it's not technology oriented, but it's still what's going on, because this is actually in Durham. I know it's happening.
I didn't ask you to elaborate.
Hold on a second. I know it's happening nationally as well, but there was this whole group of things that happened in the 60s. Ironically, some for the European American population, some for the African American population, but there was this notion of public housing. Public housing was created, and we know that here in Durham, most of the public housing is being destroyed or being kind of condemned and reconverted, and they're building new ones that will cost more money than the old one did. So they're like doing remodeling and revamping, or in some cases just totally leveling them. Because I did not realize this, Jacoby, that Few Gardens, which we know as was a largely African American population, was first designed as public housing for European Americans prior to integration, and it was McDougal Terrace that was designed for African American population. I did not realize that until I was looking this up and everything, but I did see that public housing, not just here in Durham, but nationally, is under threat. So that's a industry that people thought was a good benefit and that is now being destroyed, and they're building new public housing that is costing double the cost and all in that way. So it seems like you're getting more units, but the more units you're getting are actually more expensive. So you're even able to afford to go into the new units.
Yeah, it's called upscale public housing. Just deal with it, Mark. Okay, yes or no, Rick?
No,
The
government can't pass anything right now.
They passed this law.
It took them like 8 months to pass Ukraine funding. So no, they can't pass beans.
But they passed the Ukraine funding at the time that they can't take care of the people that are here in the country. That's why I brought up public housing. We can't even take care of our own, but we can afford.
They do take care of people in the country.
They billions of dollars that we give to other people.
Tesla, and they take care of Intel. They take care of NVIDIA. By giving government welfare to NVIDIA, government welfare to Intel, government welfare to charging stations for Tesla. They're taking care of the government. The government's taking care of doing corporate welfare quite nicely.
Okay, Ukraine aid is a great bargain for us. We are sending them. Well, it passed for $60 billion. Which is $180 for every American. And I would gladly pay $180 to have Russia be hampered in its evil BS for the next decade. And that's what we're doing. We are.
Oh yeah, I would agree. But they also spent $60 billion on charging stations for Tesla. Are you willing to spend $180 so Elon Musk gets to have his charging stations all over the country?
It is always interesting, Nick, when you say the corporate welfare.
Yes. Yeah,
you never mention the oil companies. You never mention anything of the coal companies.
Corporate welfare.
You never mention
sort of
these other
Republican
companies.
are you?
You always focus on the companies that are leading us to the future.
Corporate welfare.
Never mention the companies that are really affecting us now, and like even the PPP loans. The PPP loans are billions.
That's more corporate welfare. That was horrible.
But
that was the biggest buyoff.
That was $1 trillion, right? The PPP was some like big chunk of it.
It was the ultimate giveaway to corporate America. PPP loans, and you know what they did? Here's how they screwed the entire American public. And you know what? Your right-wing media will not bring this out. You know why? They got paid off, and frankly, I did too. Okay. And it was well into the six figures. I mean, it was a lot of money. It wasn't seven figures, but six figures. Okay. They paid off every business owner in the United States. And what they did is they granted you a loan. This is what happened. This is about $1 trillion. And then they go, oh, the loan's a grant. What? What does that mean? It's free now. And I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. It was the big, and you know what? The right-wing media is, shh, don't say anything, because they all got paid off. Congress, shh, don't say anything. They all got paid off. Media, shh, don't say anything. They all get paid off. And so because everybody got paid off in corporate America, this thing was buried. It is bigger than Trump.
And all along those lines, we had another major presidential announcement that was made recently, because we've been talking about the third-party candidates. I know that Rick has been dismissing his candidate that I'm getting ready to mention because he's got wild hair, and I've had wild hair in the past and everything. But apparently Cornel West came out as picked a lady to be his vice president. So it is the first ever, all according to him. I think Lenora Fulani might disagree and everything, because I think she had an African American as well. But he claims it's the first all African American ticket, and all along those lines. And actually, now thinking about it, Lenora Fulani might have had a white gentleman that was on her ticket and everything. But he picked a Muslim lady and one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter, ironically, Rick, there in California and everything, as his VP and everything because he picked his VP yesterday. And he also said that both major American political parties, to your point, Nick, are beyond saving. He said that on Tuesday in an interview with the
something I agree with Cornel West.
He said both parties are beyond redemption. So he explained the need for him to stay in the race, pointed to the crisis in the Republican Party, the undercutting, and the neo-fascism of former President Donald Trump on the one hand, and now the Democratic establishment, especially around Gaza. So we just had to be true to ourselves. He told the folks
on this Cornel West guy. Should we have him on the Pod TV network? I reach out to RFK. RFK is too big for us.
Well, RFK would be hilarious because of his anti-Semitism pushed along, wrapped in his conspiracy theories.
Okay, what about this Cornel West guy? I'm looking for somebody to vote for.
Get the VP. Get his VP.
So I would not vote for Cornel West.
Why not?
Cornel West, I like. Cornel West, I love some of his speeches and some of the things that he talks about. But Cornel West has no idea about the foreign policy and everything else. Cornel West has no idea.
So what? Give me a rational argument. Trump didn't know jack anyway.
Yeah, I know. And you saw how bad it was.
What?
So, yeah, Trump didn't know anything. You saw how bad things got.
You want somebody who has experience.
So you think that we need to hold on a second? So you're thinking that to Rick's point that we need to get Melina Abdullah, which is the professor at California State University, Los Angeles, who was picked a couple of weeks ago as the vice presidential pick for Cornel West, and he said he wanted someone whose heart, mind, and soul is committed to the empowerment of poor and working people. And he said that she has a record of deep commitment and investment in ensuring poor and working people are at the center of her vision. So, and like I said, I do know that she's of the Muslim faith as well. So, should we try to get Miss Melina Abdullah to come on?
Get him on the Pod TV.
Here's the reason not to vote for Cornel West. Yes, he and his VP, they've got ideas. The ideas, the African American demographic is 12 to 14% of America. The Cornel West and his VP's ideas would scare a majority. Like they can't get more than 1% of the vote because their ideas would just make like most of America nervous. Should they be nervous? I don't know, but it does. And so you're just tossing away your vote, which is more or less equal to voting for Trump.
Well, I'm tossing it away anyway with the two candidates that are up.
But hold on a second, Rick, to your point, because this is a question that I asked some friends of mine recently and everything. Is the country ready to, because the other countries have done it, is the country ready to elect a woman leader, whether that's Kamala if she steps into the role, or whether that's whoever VP, if it's a woman that Trump puts together? And are we ready to elect somebody? Because I personally thought that Pete was a decent candidate, the guy that is running transportation department, but some people would be upset because he is part of the gay population and he definitely has got a husband and everything. So is the country ready to elect either somebody that is LGBTQIA or somebody that is a woman? That's my question.
Hillary Clinton was fantastically qualified. And if you look at 2016, I mean, she won the popular vote. And if you look at that's coming out in trial, the National Enquirer shenanigans, like I don't know how many votes that cost her. And yeah, she ran a bad campaign in some ways. She didn't visit Michigan enough or Wisconsin enough.
The swing states.
But she could have, she won the majority of the votes, and she could have won if it weren't for Anthony Weiner needing to sext with underage girls, leading to Comey reopening and telling America that she was under FBI investigation. If it weren't for all sorts of crazy bullshit, she would have won. So we've been ready for a while. It's just we don't have anybody.
Would somebody explain to me why? Because I was having this conversation with a friend. That's actually why we were running a minute or two late and everything. But why are we actually seeing the Republicans go to Milwaukee for their convention? I went to Marquette. Milwaukee is not exactly a conservative town. It's actually relatively liberal. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of a bigger version of Durham and everything. So I'm still trying to figure out why they're going there. I get why the Democrats are going to Chicago and everything. But Milwaukee, Wisconsin is a swing state, but Milwaukee is not a swing city.
So, but the Democrats are going to Chicago, which people are saying might be just a huge mistake because you've got a population that's a liberal population that's ready to demonstrate in the streets over Palestine. And people are thinking this could be like Chicago 1968 all over again.
Well, I think you go see that in Milwaukee. I think you go see that in Milwaukee with the Republicans. I just told you there's an active liberal population.
So just a couple of quick things. So no, it's sadly, and let's be honest about it. Sadly, we're still not at a position where we're going to elect a female president. It's sad to say that, but that's true. We should have had one long time ago. Hillary Clinton should have been one. I mean, there are others Shirley Chisholm. So we've had the opportunity. We've failed on that market, and we still have that glass ceiling that they need. That hopefully women will break through soon. We're not ready for a president in the LGBTQIA community. Why? Because we're still having laws put on the books so they cannot be married, and they can easily be fired just for loving the person they love. Until we get rid of those laws, then we can honestly say, hey, we have the opportunity. Same thing with women. Until we allow women to have their own choice for their medical procedures, we're still not in an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to have a
notice it's all about race, gender, has nothing to do with the issues internationally, economic.
That's Nick. That's my point. It's bad commentary on our society.
It's a bad commentary on the U.S.
It's a sad commentary.
You know what? I really think you realize artificial intelligence. Hold on. Let me show you.
Let me give you an example. As my screen froze for some reason. So, as an example, right now they are banning books. The GOP is banning books in multiple states. What are they banning books on? They're banning books not on white history, not on anything dealing with George Washington and so on and so forth. No, they're banning books around African Americans, all other minorities, including the LGBTQIA community. That tells you right there that we have a problem in our society. Why are they banning books? Because they make little Johnny feel bad for being white. That is why they're banning books. So if you can tell me right now that we don't have an issue with race in our society, then you have to at least, you've got to somehow prove that the other reason that they're banning books isn't because it's making little Johnny feel bad for being white.
Charisma.
Also, we haven't even come to a position where we can admit white privilege is a real thing. We're still
little Johnny doesn't even go to the library anymore to read books, so it's kind of a waste. I hate to say it. Little Johnny's looking for, where's my cell phone? So they need to ban it on the cell phone.
Charisma trumps all. Like if there were a charismatic female candidate, we've had two hair presidents in our lifetimes. Kennedy elected over Nixon because he had good-looking guy with great hair. Reagan, great freaking hair, movie star. But that stuff beats everything.
Rick, I got a question for you.
Here's a pushback for you, real quick, Mark, real quick. And this goes back. There was an old comedian that used to say the same. Actually, he's not that old. I think he's still doing it. I can't remember the comedian's name. This is very true, and we can utilize it today. Until we can have a black president do the same exact thing that Trump does, we're not on an equal playing field. Until we can have a black president do the same thing that Clinton did. Until we can have a woman president do the same thing that Bush did. We're not on equal playing field. The problem comes into play is that the charisma has to be better than everybody else. That's what got Obama elected. He was such a great orator. He was so better than the individual.
He was way too good.
But that's the thing is that women and minorities have to overachieve just to have the chance. That goes in jobs, that goes in life, and that's the reality of the situation in our society today.
You told me that's actually where I was going and everything, because one of the issues that I have heard from even some of my lady friends and everything is that if a woman has charisma, even in the corporate world, and yes, there are women that are charismatic leaders and everything, then they are considered by many to be that word that is also associated with the female breed of dogs and everything. So that is definitely the problem that exists, is that sometimes it is too often not seen as a positive from those that are in the female gender versus those of us that are in the male gender, like the four of us here on.
Counselor, are you suggesting there's a double standard?
Oh, there's a total double standard, yes.
Okay, that's
I want to go
your
back to
opinion.
Obama
That's
for
not
a
what
second.
Jacoby thinks.
One of the frustrating things about Obama was because he held himself quite reasonably to that he knew he couldn't, like, he was no drama Obama. He couldn't get pissed off, and because of that,
Right.
he got played by the Republicans all the time. That's why I wanted Hillary over Obama, because Hillary would have gone in already pissed off, and she would have come in and, like, it wouldn't have been great.
No,
But-
she couldn't. Women, black men can't get mad. If you are
that's part of that
black
double
guy
standard.
and you get mad, like how Trump goes out there and yells and cusses and everything else. If a black dude did that, you're calling him the angry black dude and calling the cops. If
Wait a minute. Jacoby, are you suggesting there's a double standard in the United
There
States?
Hey,
There
Nick,
is.
if you don't think that, wait a minute, Nick,
And
if you
then
don't think
even
that there's a
between
double
women, like,
standard,
how
if you don't
say,
think there's a double
that is
standard,
such news to
go
me.
just about
Look,
any
Mark.
Sunday service of just about any church, because I know you're a Mormon. I know that Rick is a Jew, but I don't care what the denomination is. There is a serious double standard, even in our institutions, church only being one of them, and even in the schools as well. So yes, there is a serious double standard that exists. You can even
Well,
see the way
I mean,
that
Wait,
people are.
this is the United
talking
States
about-
of America.
just talking about how Rick brought up
Jacoby, this is
Hillary
the
Clinton.
USA.
Had Hillary come in mad and yelling and everything else, what was one of the biggest attacks that Trump used? She's a mean, nasty woman. Why did that stick to her when Trump was the one cussing and yelling? It's because it fell into
Because no one ever calls
old
him a mean,
stereotype.
nasty man.
And even if she said whatever, if she sounded agitated, she was unhinged. She was squealing. She was all this other. Oh, she's emotional. Well, good Lord, Trump is rage tweeting at 2:00 in the morning on his golden toilet, but we said nothing about it. But
Do you have a problem with a golden
Oh my
toilet,
gosh,
Jacoby?
she's emotional. So that's that double standard. Until we have an equal playing field, until we have an opportunity where we have a woman running for president who pays porn stars, and we don't look at her as a whore or everything else. Because even look at what's going on right now with Trump's trial. What are the quote? Hey, Stormy Daniels is a brilliant woman. Went to college, did all this extra stuff, started her businesses. Everything she's done. has
So
been
she's
successful.
worth $130,000.
But the thing is,
What's the problem?
she's the one being called a whore, a slut, and all this stuff. While Donald Trump is accused of sexual harassment, he literally said he would sleep with his daughter. Said he was bragging about the pageants that he ran, which were teenage pageants, walking in on naked women and so excited about it. Even went on this whole sexual abuse that yelled on the bus. He could grab women, but we don't say anything about him. He's bringing manliness back. That's not manliness at all. So that's that double standard.
Hold on,
Okay, well, let's
women
listen
are
to
attacked
that.
for being hormonal. They can't hold office. Yet, when Trump almost died of COVID, I'm sure they pumped him full of steroids. So we had a world leader pumped full of steroids, and even if not Trump, fucking RFK Jr. is full of teeth. He takes supplemental testosterone. He's pumped full of steroids. Do you want a guy with roid rage, like holding the nuclear football? So
Yeah, maybe. You know, I mean, he's definitely a candidate. Definitely a candidate to look at. Except
No.
So
by
okay, the so
way,
we're all in
just
agreement we shouldn't ban TikTok. We're all in agreement that Ukraine got the money, so now they're going to be able to give out some honey to our friends in Russia. And let's see.
Hold on a
then
second.
there's
Are you 100% convinced of
This
that?
is
I've heard some
continuing
people
the
say that
drama-
Kharkiv may
drama.
actually fall, and if Kharkiv falls, that could be problematic for Ukraine. So I've heard that there might be an all-out blitz from President Putin in Russia. So while I hope that Ukraine can maintain its defense and do well, and that they can keep the wolf at the bay, if I can use that analogy and everything. I am not 100% convinced because a lot of them have lost a lot of lives, just like there's been a lot of lives lost in Israel, around the whole Gaza Strip area, and just in general, and even in Iran and other parts of the Middle East. But I am not 100% convinced that the Russian offensive is totally thwarted just because of this billions of dollars.
Okay, well, what about Drama-Don Trump? Since he's going to be in the headlines today, it looks like Drama-Don is going to be around for quite some time. What's going on in the trial of the century? I heard the National Enquirer is still up.
I think that they're off today, or they were off yesterday. Are they off again
there are
today?
two trials running at the same in tandem right now. You have the immunity case going on at the Supreme Court happening. They're doing the questioning. I've got that going in the background, and you also have the questioning in his hush money trial happening right now as well.
Right. Yeah, it's Drama-Don. But for the National Enquirer standpoint, this guy wants to be on the stand as long as possible because it gets publicity to the National Enquirer, because inquiring minds want to know what the latest lie is.
No, the latest lie. We want to know that. Speaking of inquiring minds, we've only got a few more minutes to go. I've got an inquiring mind question for you, Nick, and I alluded to it earlier because I thought maybe Pod TV could buy TikTok and everything. But I want to know, is Pod TV going to buy Red Lobster? Because apparently Red Lobster is also looking for a buyer, as it's looking to avoid bankruptcy filing. So I want to know if we're going to go into the food business, because apparently Red Lobster is up for sale, and maybe we can have a Pod TV Red Lobster.
Please, no, Red Lobster is a red herring. Forget that one. But TikTok is something interesting. Apparently, they have a year to divest themselves of stock, and this may not be a bad acquisition. So, I can get my group together and see if we can buy out TikTok. That would be pretty cool.
What do you think, Rick, about Red Lobster?
I just want the Cheddar Bay biscuits. I want to be able to get those someplace. Though the name pisses me off, because there's no way an explorer arrived at this bay, never seen before by Europeans, and said, "Yeah, this bay reminds me of cheddar cheese."
Well, see,
Rick, I love you.
Well, by the way, speaking of other corporate news and everything, apparently Southwest, that airline, posted a first quarter loss, and they're going to limit their hiring, but they're also offering voluntary leave to their staff, and apparently they're going to drop a couple of their flights as well and everything. So maybe that's something else that you can buy, Nick, since you're always looking for buys as you're going. So maybe Southwest is also something to look at as well, because they're dropping 4 airports, and that's what they're dropping.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get
this is off subject. Toby, do you want to do like a once a week show about the future, or we just talk about all the crazy crap that's going to happen?
That would be hilarious. That would be awesome. There's actually that'd be fun. There's another podcast out there that I'll listen to that's similar, which is hilarious. It's the alien one. I can't remember the name.
Hey, Nick, that raises one other question. I want to know, how can we get on the FAST channel? Because I was watching Ion. Ion is on the Roku. That's how I watch some of my old TV and everything. And I noticed that Haunted Television, I think PBS Retro, and a number of others were advertising. And when I looked it up, it's something called Fast Channel that's on the Roku. So apparently you get to be listed, and they will show your ads on there and everything. So I want to know how we can get Pod TV onto this notion, because they were advertising other networks.
Okay. Just so people know, we are not on the Roku channel. We have our own channel on Roku. What's the difference? When you get your TV, you go to Roku. At the top, there's a search engine. You type in Pod TV, and we'll have our own channel. Roku will have its own channel. Netflix will have our own channel. But remember, if you go to Roku's channel, type in Pod TV, you're not going to see anything. We have our own channel on Roku. Actually, we have 4 channels that run on Roku, but all you have to do is type in once, and you'll get 4 channels. So I'm trying to make sure
they advertise Pod TV like they were doing on TV, which apparently is a network that's all about ghosts.
Yeah, well, you got to have all our producers tell the viewers that if you go to the Roku has its own channel on Roku, but Pod TV has its own channel on Roku. But don't go to the Roku channel, look for Pod TV. We're not on there. And I looked at them the other day. They have stupid programming. You don't want to be there anyway. So our program is actually pretty good, in spite of the fact we do World Edition every day. So you can find it actually on your television set. Go to your TV, go to the search engine, you'll type in Pod TV, up will pop Pod TV. Next door will be Netflix, then Amazon Prime. I got them all on my thing. And then there'll be a Roku channel. Okay.
I like that idea. So
Don't go there to
everybody
look for
can
us.
get
We're
their
not
own
there.
channel that way. I know we're going to get out the
Yeah.
door, but we can go a minute or two over so we
Right.
start a minute or two later and everything. But my quick question to you, Jatovi, is there is this sport that used not to be popular, even though we won a Stanley Cup, and now it's very popular in this area and everything called hockey and all along those lines. I know they're going up. I think it's today to play in New York and everything. So I just want to know, because I'm sure you were there, but it looks like there was a lot of fans having a lot of fun there, and I've yet to go to a Canes game, even though they've been here almost 20 years and everything. So that's on my wish list to get to and everything. But how are the Canes doing? And there are possibilities that they can bring a Stanley Cup title here and not have it go to Canada or the West Coast or anything along those lines. So do we stand a chance of winning a Stanley Cup in the year of 2024?
I mean, they're the Cup favorites.
So we're the Cup favorites. That's a good thing. So hopefully we'll win it. What was it like with the crowd there and everything? Because like I said, I've only watched it on television, but it looked like in that amazing comeback, which was I think 2 days ago, they looked like they were having a good old time, and it looks like the fans might have helped them come back from 3-1 and everything. So what was the environment like before we get on out of here and everything?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. There are other fun things to talk about besides hockey right now. I mean, you know, other
We only
things,
got another 2 minutes.
know,
That's what I'm
fun
trying to
stuff.
get something.
like some crazy stuff. Oh no, super cool, super cool. The Voyager 1, they finally, I don't know if you guys read that Voyager 1 now has communication back, because they lost communication with Voyager 1 back in either September, October, to November that last year. But the Voyager 1 is in interstellar space at this moment. I mean, it's the furthest thing from the planet that we've ever launched. Voyager 2 is right behind it, but they just reestablished connection with Voyager 1. And it takes 22 hours to send a message and 22 hours, well, roughly about 23 hours to send it and 23 hours to receive the message in return. And plus, they found another planet out there. Evidently, there's another planet. So Pluto's not a planet, but they found another planet that's out there.
So if Pluto's not a planet, how many planets do we have now? Because I think that we downgraded Pluto. So it used to be 9 planets, and then we downgraded Pluto. So I guess is it 8 planets, or then did we add another planet? So how many planets is there actually in the solar system now? Because I got very confused when we downgraded Pluto. I was already doing good enough with Pluto to be both a planet and a Disney character.
So the new, if it's a new planet, it has to be it has to follow the planet rules. All the planets except for Pluto kind of go around, maybe Neptune, but like they're all in one plane. They go around the sun like this. Pluto is like going and is too small, so they demoted it for being the size of a moon and for not being in the planetary plane. The new planet, if it follows the rules, maybe it gets to be a planet.
What's super cool, Rick, have you watched the 3-body problem?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fascinated by that the logic behind the whole 3-body problem. I've been starting to watch all the different TED Talks, watch Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day, and it's just neat to think about how, I mean, it really does. That's true chaos.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of true chaos, and we're going to get out of here, but one of the articles that I saw about it, and it kind of comes back to your chaos theory, is that there are some people that, because it was reported in National Geographic, that are saying that because of the nature of the gases and the way the planets are out there, that if there is alien life out there, and I don't doubt that there probably is, that it is probably not green Martians, but the aliens probably are purple. So Prince, if he was living, would be very glad about this.
Just,
they're saying that most of the alien life might actually be purple.
The thing that makes me crazy about that show is they have the hottest, sexiest scientists ever. Like, they are not what real scientists look. They've got like that one lady, like she's got like the most kissable lips, and yeah, she's like the world's smartest lady. And the one lady who's the Asian lady who's super serious all the time and tortured by life, and like, you know, that's a serious lady. Then you see her at a premiere and like her boobs are out. She's got like, she's wearing almost nothing. She's got a ton. She's like, ah! Like it's like people like, it's so crazy.
Rick is trying to pick up
the non-scientific people like doing a really good job of like acting scientific.
Well, they know, isn't that what the weather ladies have been doing for years? As we get on out of here, just tell me, what is your thoughts about this notion that Prince would be very happy because apparently the vegetation and I guess by continuation, the life forms of all types would be purple. So that's something that they're saying. So I know Prince would be quite glad to know that if he was living, since purple was his big color and everything.
Well, there's that. Plus, there's that there could be alien life also that's out there, and we're just the zoo that they're visiting.
That is true.
And they, just like you're not supposed to go into the animal cage at the zoo, that's what they're probably doing.
Yeah, they're probably going like, we don't want to go visit those humans. They might do something crazy. They might bite us. So, and like we say about the animals at the zoo. So yeah, they're not trying to visit us. They're probably like observing us from afar, going like, no, Toby, Mark, and Rick are slightly crazy. We don't want to go drop in on them. They might have something for us that we don't want to have.
I would argue that everything that is crazy about humans is probably replicated on like billions of planets across the universe. That there's no reason for aliens to come see us, because I bet you we are totally ordinary in the scope of things.
It'd be hard to see because the way of, the delay of the light, the light travel itself. So how are we going to see the alien life form if that light travel itself is already putting us behind 1 million or so years, or even behind 1,000 or so years? So it's wild to think about.
Also, we're on the total outskirts of the Milky Way. If you want to run into aliens and see what they're like, you got to move towards the center where all the stars are.
Right. So if I'm hearing you as we're walking out the door, both you and Jatovia are saying that what we talk about often on the World Edition, which is divisiveness and people that are very much defensive of their individual countries and their individual way of life, would be the same thing in the alien nation. So maybe the aliens have got a race and other kind of divisive issues as well. So maybe the green aliens don't like the purple aliens.
Right.
The purple aliens don't like the yellow aliens.
Every alien civilization at some point discovers nuclear fission and then figures out they can make bombs. Probably 8 out of 10 civilizations has had to get through the period where they could blow themselves up.
I would agree with that. That's probably what they're doing in Alien Land. And in that third dimension, there is probably a World Edition taking place right now with a Mark version of a version of me, a version of Jatovia, and a version of you, Rick, that they're having the same discussion and wondering were they talking about, and whether they're talking about their president, because they probably got their version of Trump, and they probably have their version of some of the other issues that we've been talking about, including their version of TikTok. So they might be doing that in that other dimension, even as we're talking, and we will never know until we get to those Evan Gates and find out that they were having this same conversation at the same time. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here.
Bye-bye.